Okay, guys, I really appreciate the things that you've been doing. All right, and I really want to thank you for doing a good job. Today, now, I just want to briefly go over what we're doing. We really need to be good at translating sentences into equations. All right, so I've got a couple worksheets here for us to look at. All right, and then I have solving kind of one-step equations. Now, the one-step equation should be very easy. However, there's fractions and decimals. All right, so this is an amazing review. All right, of all of that information. All right, so what I want you to do now is I want you to start with me. All right, and I want you to I'll do the first page, and you can do the second page for homework, and so on. And what I'll do with this class is I will do the first worksheet, and then with the other class I'll do the second worksheet. And if you want to check your answers with the second worksheet, you can, and I'll also post the solutions just in case you're having any trouble. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, now some of the words here might be a little bit different, but that's okay. We'll think through it. All right, number one, 54 minus 9 times d gives 18. Gives is another word for equal, so we'll say equals 18. All right, again, I think that's pretty straightforward. All right. Now, the next one, I see the word magnified. All right. Now, again, to me, magnified, I haven't really seen that a whole lot. But what I do know is when you magnify something, that means you're multiplying it. All right. So magnified is another word for multiplication. So write that down. All right. So you're going to magnify the product of 5 and b plus 2 by 7. So that means you're going to take 7. You're going to multiply that. Now, the other way I remember that is these two operations are in a row, or two operations are stated next to each other. That means it requires parentheses. All right? So 7 parentheses, the product of 5 and b, which would be 5b plus 2 is equal to 49. All right, so that'd be the answer to number 2. All right, number 3. 4/5 of n. Now don't forget, of in math means multiplication. So we have 4/5 n decreased is subtraction by 15. Equivalent is the same as equal 1. All right, that wasn't too bad. All right, let's take a look at number 4. All right, now for number 4, diminished means subtract. All right, so m is being diminished by 5/7 of m. So 5/7 of, again, remember, means multiplication. All right, and that is equal to 14. All right, number 5, the difference, again, all right, is subtraction. So the difference between what? The difference between 8 and twice h is equivalent to 4. All right. Sum, again, is a good word for addition. So what are you adding? What are we adding? We're adding 1/4 of t, which is 1/4 t, and is the addition 10, and that gives us 16. Okay. Number 7, quotient. A quotient is what you're dividing. So what am I dividing? I'm dividing the sum of 6 times t and n. So the quotient is 6t plus 2. That's what I'm dividing. And what am I dividing that by? I'm dividing that by 5. And that is equal to 4. All right? So again, that was a little tricky, all right? And if you're not sure, just kind of highlight what I did and see if you can't figure it out. All right. Now this was a little strange when I looked at this first, volume. All right. I haven't really used that word very much in algebra, but I know that volume is multiplication. All right. So what are we doing? We're multiplying 4 and the product of 5q reduced as subtraction by 13, and that's going to equal 8. All right. So again, that was a little bit odd. All right. I'm not sure I've really ever seen that on a test or anything, but volume is the same as multiplication. All right. Now for number 9, 2 plus 5/7 x gives 27. And then on number 10, 29 minus k decreased, Now this almost, when I saw decreased just now as I was reading it, I thought it was another subtraction, which I thought would be odd. But it's not, because it says it's being decreased by a factor of 6. All right. When you were decreased by a factor, that means you're dividing it by 6. Okay. So again, that one's a little bit harder too. All right. I don't really use that in math vocabulary, decreased by a factor, but it's just something good to know just in case. And then that says it's equal to 3. All right. So that is a good representation of translating sentences into equations. All right. So now what I want you to do is for classwork, all right, or independent work, I want you to try 1 through 10, and then that's very similar to 1 through 10 above, so you should do better at it. All right. And if you want to hear my explanation, I'll probably record another class. But I'm also going to tell you that I'll be posting the solutions so you can double check your work. All right. I'm expecting you to, if you make a mistake, cross it out and correct it so I know that you're working. All right. And you're checking your answers. I don't want you just looking at the answers. All right. Now, solving the equations. Now, the reason why this one's going to be so helpful is, again, because, all right, it is solving equations with fractions, and I really want to make sure you're top-notch on your fractions for next year. So I specifically did these. These are a little bit harder because they involve fractions. I don't want you using your calculators, all right? I want you working with me, all right? If you forgot, I really want you to work on this, all right? So let's go ahead and get started. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down the page, and I'm going to do the odds, and I want you to do the evens for homework. All right? So now when you solve one-step equations, you're just kind of working backwards. So I'm going to subtract 8/9, subtract 8/9. All right? Now when we do that, all right, the reason is because these two things cancel. All right, so now up here, we're going to write Q is equal to whatever 7 minus 8/9 is. All right, now in algebra, we don't write mixed fractions. So we're going to have to write them both as improper fractions. All right, so 7/1, we need a common denominator of 9. So I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 9, so that will give me 63/9 minus 8/9. And of course, 63 minus 8 is 55/9. So the correct answer is Q is equal to 55/9. All right? Now again, you're not allowed to write just 55/9. I want to see the work on the fractions. If you don't have work on the fractions, I'm going to have to email your parents and tell them you're not showing your work. I know you have a calculator. I'm not interested in the calculator. We're practicing. Okay? Now, number 3 is interesting. It's a multiplication. So how do I undo multiplication? We do division. All right? But the first thing is, we're in algebra. We don't really deal with mixed fractions, so we're going to make that an improper. So remember, 6 times 3 is 18. 18 plus 2 is 20. So this is negative 20 thirds u is equal to negative 7 over 4. Now, this is why we learned those properties. We learned the properties because they're going to help us solve. If I'm trying to undo negative 20 thirds, we say we're going to multiply by the inverse, all right, which is the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3 over 20, multiply by negative 3 over 20. Now, why do we do that? Again, because these will cancel, and you're left with u is equal to. Now we have to refresh on our multiplying fractions. Notice I can't cancel this way. I can't cancel this way. So that means I just multiply straight across. All right. And when I multiply straight across, I'll get u equals negative times a negative is a positive, 21 over 80. So that's my answer. Now remember, keep in mind that 21 over 80 I know is correct, and I can't reduce it because I couldn't reduce the fractions up above. All right? Hopefully you're doing fine. All right, question number 5. All right, so for question number 5, I'm going to add 8/5. I'm going to add 8/5 to both sides. And again, the reason why I do that is because these will cancel, all right? So I'm left with v equals, now I get a common denominator here. Common denominator is 10. I'm just going to show all the work. 10, 10, multiplied by 5, multiplied by 5, so that's 15 over 10, multiplied by 2 over 2, that's 16, all right? Then you add 15 plus 16, which we know is 31 over 10. Again, 31 over 10 is your final answer. All right? And it's your final answer. We don't write as a mixed fraction. We always, in algebra, leave it as an improper fraction. Okay? So now down here, we have a division problem. All right? So how do I undo division? We do multiplication. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2/3, multiply both sides by negative 2/3, and again, the reason those cancel. So now we have x equals, now negative times a negative is a positive. This time, however, the 6 and the 3 can be reduced. 6 divided by 3 is 2, 3 divided by 3 is 1. So our final answer is now we multiply 2 times 2 is 4, and 7 times 1 is 7. And I always go back and just double check. There's a negative there and a negative there, so correct answer, positive 4/7. Okay? Let's take a look at number 9. All right? Now again, I'm going to rewrite this again because this is a mixed fraction, so I'm going to write that as 2 times 2 plus 1, 5 over 2a equals negative 9/8. So I'm multiplied by the reciprocal again, 2/5. Multiply by the reciprocal 2/5. And again, these guys cancel. So now I'm left with a is equal to. Now here again, I notice 2 and 8. All right, 2 divided by 2 can cross out to 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Now I notice nothing can cancel with 9 and 5. So I just multiply straight across. 9 over 4 times 5, 20. Negative times a positive is a negative. So now a is equal to negative 9/20. All right? So that's a good review of fractions. So what I want you to do now is try on your own 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Very important to be excellent at fractions. All right? So please get that taken care of. All right? Now, number 1. All right, on the next section deals with decimals. All right, so again, I tell everybody you should be excellent at decimals also. So again, solving a one-step addition, we subtract 4 from both sides. All right, and now what happens? The 4's cancel out. You're left with b is equal to, now 2.4 minus 4, we know we're subtracting, so it's easy if we just make negative 4.0 plus 2.4. all right? Because they're opposite signs, we subtract, all right? That becomes, cross that out, make that a 3. That becomes a 10. So 6, 1. Don't forget the decimal, and it's negative. Negative 1.6. All right, please show work. I'm not going to accept just the answer. I know you can type it on your calculator. I'm not interested in typing on the calculator. I'm asking you to show your work. All right, I want to make sure you're experts at the arithmetic. All right, so now down here, number 3. Again, how do we undo multiplication? We divide. So here we go. So I'm going to go 3.75, and now I'm going to go 3.75. All right. Now, what happens here is these cancel, so you're left with x is equal to. Now, personally, what I think is a problem here is I don't really like dividing 3 by 3.75. But again, we're just going to practice just to make sure you remember all of this. All right. So when you're dividing 3 goes into the house, right? And then it becomes 3.75 this way. All right. Now keep in mind, remember your decimal is there. You move it over twice. Move this over twice. So it becomes really like 375 into 300. Well, 375 does not go into 300. So just for now, I'm going to put a 0 here. Bring up the decimal, and then we add another 0. So now you're just saying, really, 3,000 divided by 375. All right. Now, what really helped me out is I learned that you're just dividing, using it as a fraction. So watch. I know it's divisible by 5. So I'm going to divide by 5 first and say 5 goes into 36 with 2 zeros. And then I'm going to divide 5 into 37. All right, if I divide 5 into 37, that's 7 with 2 left over. And now that's a 5. All right, now notice again, all right, I can divide by 5 again. All right, so I'm going to divide this by 5, I'm going to divide this by 5. So 600 divided by 5 is 12, so now I know it's 120. Now if I divide 75 by 5, I know it's what? Well, 5 goes into 7 once, the 2 left over, so that'd be 15. So now I'm pretty sure we can divide by 5 again, all right? And so 5 goes into 12 twice with 2 left over, so it's 24. 5 goes into 15, 3. And now 24 divided by 3 is 8. So my correct answer is 0.8. Now again, some of you might say, well, I'd rather just guess and check to figure out how many times 375 goes into 3,000. And that's perfectly fine. I just think it's easier to just do this as a fraction and just reduce. Now I'm telling you guys, please listen to me. I'm expecting to see all of that work. Alright? If not, I'm turning it, sending it back, and putting a 0 in. Alright? And writing emails. Alright? You must show your work. It's annoying, but if I have to do it, I think you should have to do it. Alright? So let's continue on. Alright? Now, a lot of times I like to just rewrite this as P plus 8.8 equals negative 7.4 because I just think it's easier to see it that way. So we subtract 8.8, subtract 8.8, and notice what happens. These cancel, and now P is equal to. Now, they're both negative, don't forget, so you have to add them. Alright? So 8 plus 4 is 2, carry the 1, 15, 16. So there you have it. So P is actually equal to negative 16.2. Alright? Hopefully you're okay with that. Let's check out number 7. Again, we're subtracting 5.7, subtracting 5.7, and so we're left with A equals. Now, to me it was always easier to rewrite it as negative 5.7 plus 1.5 because I know I'm subtracting. A positive and negative I subtract. So now this is just negative 4.2. Negative 4.2. Alright? Now I think the last one for this exercise, again, we're doing division. So to undo division, we multiply by 9, multiply by 9. Now I know a lot of you know what 16 times 9 is, but I'll still want to see the work. 54, 144, don't forget one decimal place, so that'd be 14.4. Again, show me the work, all right? Now again, your job is to go back and knock out the evens, please. Knock out the evens, all right? Now, for this page, notice there's decimals and fractions. They're just mixed up, all right? So again, not a big deal. You just have to take your time. All right, so let's start out doing all the odds. All right, so I'm going to rewrite this because I think it's easier if you see it as z plus 9.4 equals 2.7. Subtract 9.4. Now z is equal to, now I have a positive and negative, so I'm going to subtract. So I put the bigger number on top, and then I subtract. I know negative 9.4 is smaller, but I really mean the absolute value. All right, but I think you understand what I mean. 9.4 is bigger than 2.7, so I put the 9.4 on top because I'm going to subtract. So that's an 8, that's a 14, 7, 6, don't forget the decimal, negative. So z is negative 6.7. All right? Now over here, I don't think this one's that bad, so I don't have to reverse it. I'm just adding 5 to both sides. So w is equal to what? W is equal to 16. All right? Now for question number 5, I have a division. So to undo the division, I have to multiply by negative 7/9, multiply by negative 7/9. So r is equal to, now, again, I can see the 6 and the 9 reduced by a factor of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and divide by 3, which makes that a 2. Makes that a 3, and that's all that can reduce. Positive times a negative is a negative. 2 times 7 is 14. 5 times 3 is 15. So negative 14/15 is my answer. All right. Moving on to question number 7. All right. How do I undo subtraction? I add 4.8, add 4.8, and then u is equal to 14, carry the 1, 12.4. Simple, simple, simple. All right. All right, hopefully you're agreeing with me. All right, nothing difficult about that. And then number 9, really simple. Subtract 9, subtract 9. So y is equal to negative 15. All right. Now, again, the main objective with these problems is to practice your fractions and your decimals. You have to be really good at fractions and decimals to be good at Algebra 1. All right, it's not always going to be able to use the calculator. All right, so this is a great review to make sure that you understand how to do all the decimals and all the fractions, and I'm expecting to show all your work. All right, so please do that. Show all work. All right, in addition to doing all that work, all right, I have some IXL. I'm going to post the IXL. All right, please listen now. I expect all of this done. These are one-step equations, Algebra 1. All right, we're always in Algebra 1 now. I'm expecting you to do that. No shortcuts. I prefer that you not use your calculator. All right, I want you to be experts at solving one-step equations. All right, if you get frustrated and you want to check your work with your calculator, I can't really see what you're doing. All right, but I'd rather you check your calculator than just give up. All right, it seems like a lot of work. All right, but it's not, and it's super, super important. All right, I want all this to be taken care of, and I want you to be experts at one-step equations and two-step equations, and that's coming next. All right, so I hope you guys continue to stay healthy. I really miss seeing you in person, and I'm doing the best I can. If you have any questions or concerns, you can email me. I'm trying to stay in contact with your parents if I see any problems. Some of you are not finishing your IXL, so your grade is not what it should be. All right. So if you decide to get with the program and finish up the IXL, you can let me know and I can change your grade. But you're supposed to keep up with your grades and your work. All right. So I'm expecting this IXL to be done before the next class period. All right. So it's been a pleasure. Hopefully you continue working hard and you're learning. That's my main thing. I want everyone learning. All right. God bless you guys. I miss you. I'll see you soon.